So why do you need a Discovery the size of this? To be honest, you don't. The only reason why it is as big as it is because it looks cool and I wanted it to be, basically. I actually had a friend, Josh, if you're watching, he bought a Pajero and he had 33-inch tyres on his Pajero, and I thought, well, if he's got 33-inch tyres, I want 33-inch tyres, basically, so I fitted them. Little did I know, Pajeros can take 33 tyres quite easily, or 33-inch tyres, I should say, quite easily, and Land Rovers really cannot. We'll go into exactly what you need to do to fit these tyres in a moment, but I will warn you, it's not easy. And you need to do a lot of modifications to be able to fit these tyres. So I get asked this quite a lot, as you can imagine. The wheels and tyres that I have on this are TOYO Open Country mud terrains. They're 33 by 12.5, so they're just over a foot wide. They are massive. Obviously not as big as a 35 that some people run, but this is as big as I wanted to go. It's on a 15 by 10 inch wheel with a minus 32 mil offset. Now, that was a bit of a mistake because it's the offset that causes all my issues, which we'll probably go into in a bit. Well, we'll touch on it now. Basically, what it is, when the axle articulates, the wheel wants to tuck up, or the tyre really wants to tuck up inside the wheel arch. If you put a huge offset on your wheel, so your wheel's really far outside of the arch, it can't go anywhere. It's just going to hit all of this, which causes no end of problems, basically. But anyway, so that's the wheels and tyres. Now we should discuss what you need to do to a vehicle to be able to fit wheels and tyres of this size. Obviously, I'm going to go into detail about how you fit them with this offset, because that's all I know. Basically, I did have a set of mud terrains on it before, Insa copy tracks, basically remolds, but they were only the stock size that you could do to a stock Discovery, because when I first bought this, I didn't want to wreck it. So we've gone back to selfie mode so I can show you around it a little bit easier. But to start with, you're going to need a lift. A 2-inch lift isn't really going to be enough. Some people say in the UK that the 2-inch lift is enough because they fit quite skinny 33-inch tyres. I say in the UK because of our terrain that we've got over here. A lot of it's just mud and slush and stuff like that. So there's a lot to be said that skinny tyres dig through to the terrain underneath, which is a bit drier and a bit harder, and you actually get a bit further. These great big things are like better for sand, basically. They'll sit on the top of the surface and they'll stop you sinking, which stops you getting any traction. But this thing just flings mud out the way until it gets its traction, basically. I'm not saying it's the best off-roader in the world, far from it. But for the terrain that I off-road on, often it's a sort of sandy mud. You don't really want to sink because you'll be up to your axle straight away. So yeah, you're going to need probably a minimum of a 4-inch lift, I would say. That's what I've got on here. I don't like body lifts, so I've got a 2-inch suspension lift and 2-inch blocks underneath, which works quite well. It's all got very rusty since I did it, because I built this truck 10 years ago, roughly. It's all got pretty gross since then. But obviously, if you're going to lift a truck and you're going to fit big tyres on it and stuff like that, and give it a big suspension lift, you're going to increase the travel of your axles a lot. So the first thing you're going to do is have to fit longer brake lines. I actually had mine custom made by a hydraulics company, because at the time, all you could get was plus 2-inch. Then what you're going to need is extended ABS lines. The front, actually, this is a bit of a Discovery 2 hack. You don't need to extend your traction control ABS lines on the front. Just unpop them from the clips that they're clipped into the body, and you should be good to go. You've got enough left up under the engine bay that they can slide down through the grommets effectively, down underneath, and you should have enough. I might actually... Yeah, you can see there. See, you've got enough. The front doesn't travel as much as the back anyway. You don't have as much droop on the front as you do on the rear. But I would definitely just pop the clips out from under the bonnet, pop these grommets out, maybe put another grommet round it to stop it wearing away. But I mean, this has been done for however many years and it's been absolutely fine like that. MOTs, the lot is fine. So the front ABS cables are fine. The rear, you will need to extend. Some people say some old Rovers have really long ABS lines that are the same plugs as these. I took a risk back in the day when I built this because no one really knew what it would do, and I got some 2-core like 1.5mm control cable, and I extended the lines just with a couple of crimps, and so I heat shrunk it, basically just soldered it all together. They've been absolutely fine until now. I've got faults on the dashboard now, but I don't think that's to do with my wiring. I think that's more to do with the shuttle valve. I might need to do the shuttle valve mod, but I will find out. But for the rear, extend your brake lines, extend the ABS lines just with a bit of 2-core cable, just crimp it, make it nice, make sure it goes, like, there's no faults, and then you're good to go. Obviously you're going to need shocks. I've got Terra firmers on here, but they are rusty. But obviously you're going to need shocks that are like +6 inch, something like that, because you don't want the shocks to be the limiting factor of your articulation, because that will eventually kill it. Ask me how I know. And you're going to want extended bump stops back there, you can't really see them. One thing I should not forget to mention, and this will start us off nicely on what you need to cut away, because let's be honest, you've got to cut it. If you want to run a big offset like this, you have to do some arch cutting. You can't get away with it. But like I say, this one's been cut for years and it's absolutely fine. You can't really notice it because I've covered it up with these flat dog arches. But at the back here, your tyres will hit that. I fitted these tyres, I tried to drive off the end of the driveway and I couldn't steer. So this is the standard sill, or bit of plastic sill, and I've just cut the end off, basically. But if you've already got rock sliders on your truck, and you're going to put big wheels and tyres on it, just bear in mind you're either going to need to cut your rock sliders or get shortened ones. A lot of companies that sell rock sliders sell shortened ones for that exact reason. The back of this tyre will hit that. In fact, if we walk around here, there's a little bit of lock on. No, it's not really close enough, but yeah, it will quite quickly be into the front of your rock slider. So just bear that in mind. So what do you need to cut? You need to cut about that much, basically, off of the entirety of the front wheel arch. You'll have to take your front bumper off. You need a winch bumper. This one's bent down because if you've seen our off-road disaster video, you'll see that, as you can see, what's about to happen there. I mean, that's not that far away. Like, that will catch that. That will rip that down. Let's make the whole thing look bent. It's a wild bear bumper. It's actually torn a weld. It's actually torn a weld there and bent that corner down. Can't blame wild bear for that. It's not really supposed to be driven over by the truck it's fitted to. I do have a new number plate, by the way. I just haven't fitted it yet. So yeah, you do need to cut a lot away, but get yourself some wider arches, you'll be absolutely fine. People panic about the rear. I panicked about the rear. I was like, how on earth am I supposed to cut that away? But you can. You trim along there, basically, just to get that up out the way. You don't need to cut the door. This is absolutely disgraceful, but you don't need to cut the door. The door's absolutely fine. But you can see the width of the arch. Trim it all the way back there. Obviously you'll end up with like gaps like this in your bodywork, but there's nothing you can do about that. The main thing is get extended bump stops on the rear. Get the biggest ones you can find. I think mine are like +6 inch, something like that. They're huge. Yes, it limits the amount the axle goes up, and you know, because of physics, that also limits how much droop you have the other side. But it saves your bodywork. These do still rub. That will rub that arch. You can hear it just kissing it a little bit as it goes round as you're off-road under full articulation. But it's not the arch that's stopping it. It's the bump stop that's stopping it. The arch is actually just a little bit of collateral damage. However, you then run into issues with your Watts linkage. We'll come on to that now. Now, your Watts linkage is the linkage at the back of the truck, which basically keeps the body and the chassis and the axle all in line with itself. If you basically force the axle 4 inches down from where it's supposed to be, the linkage sits all at funny angles. I ran a standard Watts linkage for about 2 years, 3 years, something like that with the lift, and it destroyed it. And they're not cheap. But because I've parked like a bit of a lemon, it's a bit difficult to show you. I now have a cranked Watts linkage. It was once blue, but you see this arm here is cranked, as is the upper arm, and it basically allows it, it's twisted at the minute because I'm parked at an angle, but it basically allows it to sit straight and not kinked, and you need that because otherwise it would be horrendous to drive, and it is, trust me, I tried it. Whilst we're on the topic of chassis, basically your front trailing arms, they will be at a funny angle, basically. Your caster will be really far out, so it'll tilt your axle one way or another. I can't remember, I think it's back. No, it actually gives it, yeah, okay, so you lift it up. Anyway, basically your axle and your caster for your steering isn't in line anymore from where it was previously before you lifted it. So you need either caster corrected arms, which are really expensive, places like Adrenaline do them and stuff like that, Adrenaline 4x4, or caster corrected bushes like I've got. The bushes basically are spherical, so you can sort of clock the bush to be where you want it to be. So obviously the hole through the middle of the bush is offset to the outside of it, and you basically clock it back. It's a nightmare. You have to be a mathematician to actually fit them, but it's a lot cheaper than getting, well, it might be right now, but when I built this thing years and years ago, caster corrected arms for this were an absolute joke. The Discovery ones and Defenders, you can get them all over the place, but this, they weren't making them because they don't have the tubes like the Discovery one and the Defender have. They've got, I'll try and show you. Where's it gone? That's all the way up there. They've got like a flat arm with holes in it, basically. Yeah. So nobody made those. Another thing that nobody tells you about with these is when you take the front bumper off, here lies your washer bottle, and it is exposed to the elements. It is horrendous. You cannot have a washer bottle here. I mean, this bumper may protect it. When I first built it, it was tubular. I can't say that word, tubular. So anyway, it was really vulnerable. So just get rid of it. Take the washer bottle out. If you want my advice, you will go and get one of these. Oh, I'll just squirt water out the top of it. It's a bag put into eBay or something like that, a classic car washer bottle bag, because they come with motors built into the bottom of them. So you basically just sits there, you attach it onto the bonnet like I've done, to the jet wash, and you just run the switched feed from your existing washer bottle up to there. It squirts the windscreen. That's all you need. People don't tell you that. It's a little nugget of information that is just overlooked when people talk about building Discoveries this size. The other issue that's overlooked as well is people don't realise you have to, well, people do realise, but they don't say anything about it. You've got to remove your inner arch lining. I'll spin you back around. So obviously your arch lining is gone. What people don't tell you is when you remove the arch lining, your air intake here, I've had to just start the video again because I needed my light, basically comes out in here. Hello. What you don't want, I don't know if you see where that was. That was straight up in there. Go straight up there, through the wing, comes out in here. So, everything that your now big mud terrain tyres are going to pick up and throw straight up your air intake. I mean, it's fine, you keep your filter. Obviously, if you've got a snorkel, I appreciate that's not the case anymore. It's going to batter the bottom of your snorkel. But I never wanted to run a snorkel because I never wanted to go that deep. I don't like water particularly. I can swim, I just prefer mud to water. So my sort of crude workaround was to essentially just put a bit of hose in. It still kind of gets its cold air from there, but when I'm off-road, I sort of do that, so it's not near it. When I'm on-road, I kind of go like that, so it gets the pressure from the wheel well. That's pretty much it, really, when it comes to lifting one of these. Obviously, you could go down a different route. You could do a 2-inch body lift. You could get not as wide tyres, so they don't have to go up inside the arch, and therefore you don't have to cut quite as much. One last thing I do want to point out is there is a cross member under the front of the truck. The front prop will hit that cross member. You do need to get, you can buy 2-inch space blocks, just space the cross member down, and then the front prop won't hit it. You don't want your prop to hit it because it will snap it. But yeah, people go on about buying extended props for them. I mean, the early ones like this have got double cardon props anyway. Trust me, ask me how I know. When I bought it, it had a snap prop. Do you remember it had gone through the gearbox? If you haven't seen that, I will link it up here. I bought this as a scrap truck. Purely because it had lost a front prop and it put a hole through the gearbox, but it took me about 10 minutes to fix it. But the double cardon front prop is really good and really expensive for that reason. the rear prop, I mean, okay, so the back of the rear prop where it hits the diff, it's got a rubber donut, and obviously the truck's up here, the diff's down here, the donut doesn't like it. I actually carry on with me at all times because I'm waiting for it to tear itself to pieces. It hasn't yet. It's probably done 3,000 to 5,000 miles like this, and it hasn't yet torn itself up, which I, you know, the naysayers say it will, but it hasn't. It will do it off-road. When I'm putting loads of torque through the back axle, it will then rip itself to pieces. But until that point, I'll just carry on in the boot. I'm on my way home, and I've just realised that I never really covered why you might want such big wheels and tyres on a Discovery. Obviously, I alluded to the fact that the taller tyre you've got, the higher your diffs are off the floor, and the only way of getting your differentials and axles off the floor is by fitting taller tyres. That's, you know, physics says that's what happens. So the rest of the mods that we spoke about earlier are all to do with how to compensate for those tyres, or I say compensate, how to basically live with and how the truck can deal with having tyres like that on it. But the reason why I bought such wide tyres with such a big offset in the first place was because it basically protects the body. The amount of times I've been off-road and I've been on a bit of a side slope and it's slid down and hit a bank, and everybody else has hit their sills or their rock sliders or whatever else. And obviously, as you saw earlier, I don't have rock sliders on here. I've never needed them. I've never damaged the sills because the tyres stick out so far, it just hits them. If I'm trying to squeeze between trees, if the tyre hits it, I'm not going to fit. I don't need to hit the wings. I've got, like, the bodywork's actually, if you go back and have a look, the bodywork's actually very straight. It doesn't get a chance to hit anything because the tyres hit it first, basically. So that's why I've got tyres on it that are that wide, and that tall, effectively. So that kind of goes some way to explaining it. It did start off because it looked cool, and it ended up being actually quite a good protective measure. Basically, that is how you go about fitting 33 by 12.5 inch tyres to a Discovery 2. Give it some thought before you do it, because it does change the use case of a vehicle. Like, it's not a daily anymore, it's not like a family car anymore. You know, once you've fitted tyres that sort of size, it does become quite an interesting vehicle to live with. It won't fit in multi-storey car parks, it doesn't fit in many car parks, to be honest with you. But it's a lot of fun, and if you want to take it off-road, it's great, and it looks really cool, in my opinion. A lot of people think it looks really silly, but I think it looks really cool. But yeah, so if you want to know anything else about it, just give me a shout, drop into my DMs, comment on the video, like and subscribe anyway, because that's free and it really helps me out. And I will see you guys on another episode of Final Drive.